Okay, now time to add the main small details on the reference. So the first up, you're gonna need to do this one. I don't know what to call. I'm pretty sure you could know me. You could tell me about it. So basically, like what I do is to use the polyline and just kind of shape how it looks. And this will be important later on. And since it's a black color, I'll change it to a more lighter color. And make sure it's adjusted. Okay. Now for the next one. Here's a hack. Here's a trick that I do. Basically I got all these layout shape. I transparent them and I grab this green line to make it easier for me to recolor them later. So you see there are a bunch of small detail like the lining, number 1, the water cap, the cat window, and the coal bunker. Oh yeah, and cap door. So we're gonna need those. So the trick. So let's start with the lining. So what I like to do is usually use line or polyline to make the lining, and I just kind of start tracing from there. Make sure that the lining is straight up, as straight as possible. Both like up, down, left, right, and stuff. If it's not, but close enough, then it should be fine as well. Okay, so you will need to adjust this later, but that's okay. And I will change the thickness to however much you want. And then I'll do the same thing here too. Okay. Make sure to remove the transparent and the line and the color and thickness. And make sure they line up to each other. And once I got that, I think I'm gonna move on to the body. So you see there's a tank and the boiler. So I'm gonna need to use polyline and just trace it from there. That depends on like what engine or what character you're making, and so you're gonna try to pay attention to how much depth there is. Of course, you will need to adjust it later on. Later after you got everything. Okay. Let me align them. Then I'm gonna do the number 1. Now the trick that I use is also a polyline, or you just type out using the text box. But if I want to make it look like number 1, then I use polyline. Trace it from there. And of course, after you finish tracing and then you got a shape, you need to make some fill adjustment, like in some areas. Okay. Okay, so now I've finished. I can see some misalignment, so I'm going to change that here and there. And just make sure that just readjust everything. Okay, and now I got that. Now for the border lining. Now this can be, now here the thing is that this one is David line, but except this one's not. That's why you need the same reference photo again, just to be sure. Okay, then you should use a line. Just line up. Oh yeah, another thing. You must grab the. I also use. I'm gonna make the water cap by using the trick of the pie. You should straight, rotate, line here. And then just like that. Then I start making the red lining from here. It makes a readjustment. Now, since the whole it's curved, I think the best option to just find the endpoint of where how it line up and just do it from there. Of course, like try imagine this, and it's definitely not lined up how it should be. That's why I'm done with this one. This one's good. Now to realign it. At least just for a little bit. Okay, now I got that. Then I group the lining. Then now for the dome. Now the dome could be, you can make the dome in many different ways, and like the main method, I'm gonna demonstrate to you. First one is using the round same side corner rectangle. And just using this yellow handle to change the size. The next one, and then the next one is using a polyline. If you want to go for a bit more accurate to how it looked like. So then you can just use the polyline, start by making the half dome. Okay. Okay, to make sure. you can do it either way you want, but for the sake of it, I'm just use the shape itself. So now quickly, I'm gonna make the whistle in a low, very low poly. So depending on like what whistle you have, or you must include both the whistle and valve gear if they have it. And yeah. Also, for the sake of it, I'm just gonna make this part not included and just make the whole thing just yellow. And then align them in center. And change color. Now, and then now for the cap door and cap window. So basically just start shaping from how it look like. If it is like square, then rectangle, you can do that. If it's circular, use a circular. If it's a unique one, use a polyline. Too big. Just about right. I'll just go with that. And also make sure like yours is fit in the board. Depending on the board I'm using, it depends on like what color scheme you're using. So if your line is light, and also the lining is also light, then let's put dark. Let's say this one is this whole cap is dark green, and this one is just a light, then let's put the boy as black. Or if you have it as very dark, like this dark red, then you must have the boy being white. It just depends on like color scheme is important for the drawing. It's what I was saying. And I should also probably make the cap door too, because that would be important in a moment. And this one. And then use the moon. To shape the cap. To make sure to line up. Do like this. That depends on like what cap you're making. And of course you could change it however you like. And then start grouping the whole thing. finally, now for the cold bunker. You can use any shape you want. You could go for easy and go for rectangle, but also you can go for accuracy, like round rectangle. Just line up. And like that. And once you have all the minute detail, now you can fill in the whole tank, boiler, etc. into the livery. And then you may need to make some changes, like line this, like putting this down, line up with how it line up. Like this dome is lined up to this lining. Change the color. I'll change this one to black. And also, if you go for if you have a good catch or a good accuracy or a good attention detail, you good. I'll just make this curve like that. Then from there you can adjust it however you like. Just making sure it's looking good enough. Okay, I think that's change it a bit. Yeah, so like that's why like after you finish, you could go double check back and see if everything looked good enough, or you could change a few things. Okay, and finally, now for the window. Now the window varies a lot. Like if it's some depth in it, then it has some depth. So you're gonna need to save this for later. So, because this will be important when you have it in front of you. And that's about it for the side view.